Hello everyone, I'm Renato de Castro. Today I will be talking to you, discussing with you about the leadership and all this change with the fourth industrial revolution in leadership. And I have here a very important and a nice guest today. Chris, thank you very much to be with us. Chris has just launched the end of last year a very interesting book about leadership regarding this new era. Exactly, future-ready leadership regarding all these change that we are seeing now in the world with the technology, the new technology popping up in our lives, but it's also changing the companies, changing the consumers, changing the citizens in our smart cities. So, Chris, thank you very much to be with us today here, and I would like to already to start asking you, what is your personal definition of leadership?
Well, thanks for having me, Renato, and thanks for taking interest in this most important topic. In the book, I use a really kind of globally recognized definition of leadership by Dr. Peter Northouse, who was a mentor of mine, one of the best-selling leadership authors around. And he really defines leadership as the ability to influence a group toward a common goal. So when we look at new technologies and emerging technologies and how they're changing organizations, smart connected cities, governments, regulation of communications, all of the regulation of medicine, we really have to ask ourselves, what is the common goal for the common good that we're trying to influence those who follow toward? So the book is really in some ways a call to action for leaders to clearly define what that common goal is, and to take a look at their methods, both at the individual, team, and organizational level for influencing others toward those goals.
Great, because I understand that you have been working with leadership training and concept for more than 17 years, and you are seeing all these changes. But for example, new CEOs that are already skilled in new technologies and are from Y or millennials, they understand, this generation understand what's happening. But if you come to traditional CEOs, people from my age, I mean from the X generation or even baby boomers, for them it's quite complicated to understand in what extent technology is changing behavior. What is happening now is that we have a new mindset. So how could you exemplify for us all this change, all this disruption that the technology is also bringing to leadership?
Yeah, so for the first time in my career, and I've worked in my career, Renato, as an academic researcher, as a leadership trainer within organizations and in consulting, and as a strategy consultant. And for the first time over those 17 years, the lip service that leaders have been able to pay to things like culture, to things like change management and agility, to things like learning and upskilling their workforce, that's actually becoming an imperative reality. It's no longer good enough to just say that leaders need to be able to manage change. This is literally the life of the organization depends on not just managing change, but leveraging it, moving the organization, connecting the dots between the business and IT to move in an agile fashion and to develop a culture where the business and IT work together in collaboration with governments and regulators in new ways to actually create solutions for cities, organizations, and entire industries. It's almost like if it were a movie title, it would be Fourth Industrial Revolution. This time it's real. That we can't just say it's good enough for leaders to have these skills and for organizations to have these capabilities. This time it's real because the stakes are higher and the promises are higher. I say the promises and the pitfalls are both very real this time.
And it's quite complex. It seems to be easy to understand, but it's a complex matrix, right? It could be even a Black Mirror, video, because you have all these contradictions between well, the importance of being digital, the importance of, using technology as we're doing now to make things easier, faster, and more dynamic. But in the other way around, the physical presence of a leader is important. Leader is someone that is inspiring, and it would come to multinational organizations. How to make it happen? Tradition and technology, or tradition and new tools. So you in your book, you define a kind of framework for the new leaders, or for the change of mindset for the leadership, where you propose like 5 dimensions that leaders should be at least trying to manage or trying to fulfill, right? And the first one is exactly this: presence. So let's try to go a little bit through these 5 dimensions, these 5 frameworks.
Yeah, so these 5 dimensions, they're really, if you think about them, they're requirements for leading successfully in the 4th Industrial Revolution. They're demands of the job. In order to lead effectively in this new reality, you have to be able to meet these demands and meet them well. So the first one is presence. And this really does get at the fact it's more than just the digital distractions that leaders face. When you think of how many places a leader can go to receive a message or to send a message to a constituency or their organization, they can use this framework that we're on. They can use video, they can use chat, they can use IM, they can use a social platform. The sheer distractions that are in a leader's day, the number of distractions are overwhelming. So presence is a demand of simply being available to focus on the things that matter, the big decisions and the direction that needs to be set for an organization or a community. But it's also about being mindful. It's about being fully present with and so here you can think of things from mindfulness research that's gone on for decades. I draw from research on emotional intelligence, neuroscience research on the psychology of change and the neuroscience of change. These types of forms of presence really call leaders to be in the moment, to confront those big ethical decisions over, do we program the autonomous vehicle to hit the school bus or the elderly woman crossing the street? Those are ethical decisions that you had better be mindful of as you're making them.
And a tricky question for you: a real leader is the one that is in front of the troop, calling everybody, but being the first one to getting the shoots, or the one in the back, being sure that everybody will arrive together and everything will be done in the best way.
I think this form of in this framework does call for challenging those traditional models of leadership where the leader is up front commanding the troops. It's about being present enough to be vulnerable and to step back and say, I have no idea what the answer is, but I have built an agile organization. I've developed great leaders. I've hired great talent who are smarter than me to help figure this out. And they have to be comfortable stepping back and kind of letting the groups make decisions and take actions and remove barriers for them so that the whole group gets toward that goal that I mentioned in defining leadership.
Because somehow, since ever, when we talk about leadership, you're talking about the need of people that are following to feel secure, right? So the leader should have these main characteristics. And in changing moments as we are having now, it's even more important because I'm sure, I've been following artificial intelligence since the beginning, basically, of the new boom of artificial intelligence. And when we bring artificial intelligence to the work of people, the market work, people are very scared about losing jobs and so on. So leadership in big companies or small companies is also a matter of, keeping everybody calm and keep everybody focused and secure, right? Okay, great. And agility. Yeah. The next one would be the dimension of agility. How do you define it, and why it is important?
So in this book, I don't define agility as a software development methodology, which it is. I really define it as an approach and a mindset and a way of working to increase the speed and velocity of an organization. So I tackle in that after three different aspects of agility: direction, speed, and velocity, and really kind of unpack with a number of tools. The book has more than 25 tools for helping organizations address these demands. And the agility chapter has several tools which cannot be found in the change management literature for accelerating largely organizational agility.
Because
that's one of my favorite chapters.
It's a matter of harmonizing these three aspects, right? Although I saw you have a matrix in the book that shows that if you combine in a way that it's not balanced, the final output is not what you're looking for in agility, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. If we have speed and velocity but no direction, we've got worried passengers on the bus.
Yeah, exactly. Fantastic. Next one.
The next,
yeah,
collaboration. Collaboration is all about knowing when to collaborate, how to collaborate, and when not to collaborate. When to make some unilateral decisions, when the stakes are high, and when the ethical implications of our business or organizational decisions might harm people. So it really digs into a lot of classic research on effective teaming, effective cross-functional collaboration, how you can design that into your organization, but it also looks at some contemporary research around new models of collaboration. And again, lots of tools in there to help leaders.
There is a very important change now that is what is more important now for a company and for the leader is to serve shareholders or to serve stakeholders, right? Collaboration, I think, is also somehow connected to these. I mean, with all these multi-stakeholder process that we are following now in cities, in corporations, the sense of co-creation that clients now co-create with companies and companies co-create with cities, these aspects for a leader nowadays is really important, right?
I call it collaborative advantage as opposed to competitive advantage. Right on.
Fantastic.
Development, and that is all about upskilling, reskilling, and some really practical tools to help leaders assess, is their organization ready for the kind of deep development, always on development that their talent will need to engage in over the course of their careers, and really focusing not just on the kinds of shallow development, but also taking time to look at the really deep transformative development that helps leaders, tomorrow's leaders, develop the kinds of presence and agility that kind of run throughout the book.
There is a very close intersection between all these dimensions, right? All these dimensions, right? I mean, again, it's a way to. I mean, you must find the best way to harmonize all of them. Having just one or putting efforts in just one will not solve all the problems of leadership nowadays, right? Exactly,
they're very interdependent. I close the book out with the final demand is I call discernment, and this is really about, it's more than an ethics chapter, and it's more than a decision-making chapter. Discernment, I present an entirely new framework for purpose-driven and values-driven decision-making. I see clients all the time in some of the biggest companies around the world struggle with making very simple decisions around which employee gets this small bonus, or who gets this new, this function into their organizational structure as we're changing our operating model. There's all kinds of turf wars, and leaders struggle with making even the most simple decisions. The types of decisions that we're now faced with biomedical engineering, with smart connected cities, with autonomous vehicles, with 3D printing, and what this means for jobs and economies of scale around the world. These are really big decisions that leaders need a new values-based decision-making framework, and that's what the discernment chapter covers.
Well, fantastic. I will not go deeper, otherwise, I mean, now this is the cherry of the book, right? I mean, buy the book and read it. It's really, and it's not, I mean, what I liked in your book is that it's not only, it's full of theories, full of concepts, but it's a practical book. It's a book that you put it in your side table. You read a little bit every night, and you put in practice and there are a lot of toolkits that you should. I mean, you can follow and put it in practice. Okay, Chris, thank you very much. I really hope to see you soon on stage. I mean, to share the stage with you in one of these world events. discussing how leadership or the new dimensions, the new perspective, the new mindset of leaders will be important to change the world. Thank you very much for your time with us today.
Thank you, Renato, and thank you for the great work that you're doing.
Fantastic. Thank you.